The rain pounded against the dojo windows that evening. All the students had left hours earlier, but I stayed behind, punching the wooden dummy with growing ferocity. Every strike rang out through the deserted hall, not merely the impact of flesh on wood, but the crash of thunder of a man fighting himself. You see, I had earlier in the day refused to teach a student. He had money, he had time, but something in his eyes made me know he wasn't there to learn. He wanted to steal, to gather techniques as trophies. I recognized myself in him, the younger version of myself that stockpiled knowledge. That thought power lay in what you had. When lightning strobed through the window outside, casting its glare on my face in the mirror, I had an epiphany that changed not only my martial art, but the whole philosophy of life. The more you give, the more you receive. That paradox informed all that I have done since the night the storm raged outside. But listen carefully. I am not here to give a cliched motivational talk. These are not words to get you feeling temporarily pumped up and then going back to your old habits. No, what I am providing is an entire redefining of how you do everything. Your training, your relationships, your job, your very reason for being. And the moment you finally grasp this principle, you can never revert to your old perspective of the world. The question is, are you prepared to receive this truth? Are you able to bear what takes place when you finally release your hands and cease to grip so hard to what you believe is yours? I recall when I first arrived in America, and I had nothing but a few dollars and my martial arts knowledge. I felt that my knowledge was something to safeguard, to guard jealously, to impart only to those who would pass the test. This attitude, this thinking of scarcity, it was like fighting with a fist closed, constricted, tight, limited in its expression. For months I fought, instructing only a few students, wary of anyone inquiring too deeply into my methods. I was guarding my rice bowl, as we say in China, but my rice bowl was almost empty. It all changed when I encountered an old master. Later, after he had observed me give a private lesson, he took me aside and said something I'll always remember. "Young man, you have filled your cup so full that nothing more can be added. Empty your cup." I didn't sleep that evening. His words lingered with me. Was I really too full of what I knew myself that I could not learn anymore? Was my grasp so tight on what I knew that I was really stopping myself from expanding further? The next day, I did something that scared me. I ran an open seminar, offering ideas that I had been keeping hidden. I showed skills that I had only been offering to advanced students. I offered freely, not worrying about what I would lose, not worrying about what. Something amazing occurred. The more I gave away, the more ideas came to me. As I instructed, new pathways were being made in my mind. As I provided examples, improved ways became apparent. By letting go in the act of giving, by emptying my cup, it was being filled again with something infinitely more precious. This is the basic tenet so many do not understand in the quest for mastery. They live life as a transaction, always thinking about what they will receive as payback before they give themselves. They half-effort train, they conditionally love, they work with one eye on the clock. And then they ask themselves why their progress falters, why their relationships dry up, why their work seems so meaningless. They're attempting to get without the first giving. They're attempting to harvest without sowing the seeds. Pay attention now. because this principle holds true in every part of your life. In your practice, restraint, conserving energy, shielding yourself from pain, assures mediocrity. The learner who gives her all in practice, who works past the point where others stop, who doesn't mind failing spectacularly, that's the learner who moves at 10 times the pace of others. Why? Because in giving your all, you allow room to receive new skills. Your body adjusts exactly to the pressure you put on it, no more, no less. I had a student who trained 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. He would get in early before anyone else and also depart when I was leaving. One day, I questioned him, "Why do you train so intensively when others have already gone home?" His response told it all. "Because, Master, when I give my all to training, they were unable to comprehend why a less experienced player could beat them so easily. But you comprehend now, don't you?" He wasn't only practicing movements. He was becoming the principle of giving to receive. In your relationships, this principle is even more potent. So many people come into relationships seeking, what can this person do for me? How do they make me feel? What do I get from this relationship? They have a mental book and are always keeping track of giving and receiving. And yet, these same individuals are puzzled as to why their relationships are shallow, transactional, ultimately unfulfilling. Real connection, the kind that feeds your soul, only happens when you're willing to give without promise of reward. Do you remember my first marriage? Do you remember my first marriage? Not many do, because it fell apart after only months. I was young, driven, completely focused on what Linda could provide for me, how she could help me achieve my objectives, fit into my life. The marriage was destined to fail because I entered into it as a transaction. My second union with Linda, indeed, another Linda, is going strong after years. Why the difference? I ceased to inquire of her what she might bring to my life and began to ask what I might pour into hers. And in that sharing, that absolute, unconditional sharing, I've gained love far greater than I could have demanded or bargained for. Think as well of your vocation, your calling. The most successful individuals I've met aren't those consumed with taking credit, earning a payoff, or stepping on others. The ones who are really successful commit fully to their job, not for pay, not for glory, but for the sake of contribution. They ask, how do I bring value? Rather than, what do I get? They bring the fullness of themselves to each task, whether large or small. And somehow, opportunities come to them. Resources materialize when they need them. The right connections are made at the right time. When I started my first school in America, I was still learning this lesson. I priced things high, limited knowledge, manufactured scarcity. And the school struggled to survive. My second school, I worked in a different way. I made it open, I taught freely, I gauged success not in what I gained, but in what my students learned. That school prospered, turning out students who became masters in turn. In offering more, I gained not only financial achievement, but the deep fulfillment of watching my knowledge grow through others. But be cautioned. There is a test that accompanies this law, a moment of truth that will show whether you really know or just know intellectually. Because there will be a time when giving seems to reap nothing in return. You'll practice months with no tangible gain. You'll give yourself to a relationship that ends anyway. You'll devote yourself entirely to a project that tanks in these instant The transactional mind freaks out. It mutters, "See, giving doesn't work. Guard what you have. Pull back. Hold back." This is where most individuals step away from the principle. They move into scarcity thinking, into defensive postures, into living half-heartedly. But they who know well realize that giving isn't about instant return. It's about building capacity to receive. Sometimes the universe has to drain your cup dry before it can fill it with something greater. That training plateau sets you up for a breakthrough. That career setback refocuses you on your real calling. Let me tell you a story that few know. After my first movie became somewhat successful, I was offered a role that would have overnight made me famous. The cash was more than I'd ever seen. But something didn't feel right. The character reinforced stereotypes. The plot was thin. Everyone advised me to take it. My agent, my friends, even my dad. Take what you can get. They told me, with great trepidation. I said no. For 2 years afterward, no similar offers materialized. I second-guessed myself all the time. Had I been crazy to pass up such a chance? Next was the proposal for the Green Hornet, a character that permitted me to introduce depth and dignity to a role that started my career on a path congruent with my values. By letting go of what wasn't working, by making room, I got something much better. Now, I'm going to show you 3 specific practices to live this principle in your own life. These aren't abstract ideas. They're concrete tools that changed me from a struggling martial artist with a few students to someone whose philosophy still affects millions of people all over the world decades after my physical body has passed on. Apply these practices not as fixed techniques, but as doorways to a new way of existing. The first practice is what I refer to as empty-handed training. Every day, choose one thing you're holding too tightly, a belief, a grudge, a possession, a desired outcome, and deliberately open your hand. Let go of it entirely. Perhaps it's your insistence that your way is the correct way. Perhaps it's resentment towards someone who hurt you. Perhaps it's your attachment to how a situation must go. Whatever it is, let it go completely, making room for something new. Initially, this will be horrifying, like jumping off a cliff. But eventually, you'll find yourself experiencing an intoxicating freedom with this practice. I recall the day that I let go of my attachment to Wing Chun as the best art. Years I defended it, debated its superiority, shut myself off from other methods. When I released my hand, seeing its limitations, respecting other forms, my own art grew beyond what I had ever imagined. Jeet Kune Do could not have been conceived if I had not first trained empty-handed with my dearly held conceptions about martial arts. The second practice is full cup living. Every morning, look at yourself and ask, where am I holding back today? Where am I giving less than I could? And then pledge to one place where you will give fully without holding back. Maybe in your exercise, you will challenge yourself beyond your usual boundaries. Maybe in conversation, you will listen with your full attention instead of listening for the moment to speak. Perhaps in your work, you'll bring your full creativity to a task you usually perform mechanically. This isn't about burning yourself out by giving everywhere. It's about experiencing the power of wholehearted giving in specific, chosen moments. When I rehearse for a film scene, I don't invest 90% in rehearsals and reserve my real performance for camera time. I give fully every time, finding new depths, new possibilities in each full expression. By the time we record, my performance has depths that could never be accessed by thoughtful partial giving. Your life is worthy of this same thing, not holding back until some future time, but gaining the strength of giving fully in the present. But those years of apparent giving without return were refining my skills, my presence, my knowledge of the craft. When the time arrived to introduce martial arts to the Western world, I was ready just because of those years of giving without apparent gain. And now we get to the real question. What do you experience when you commit fully to this principle? What change awaits you when you transform from what can I get to what can I give? At first, you feel a tremendous freedom. The endless calculation, the balancing act of effort via reward, the guarding of what's yours a circumflex euros, all this is an exhausting mental load you've been carrying so long, you've almost forgotten it's there. Once you let go, the amount of energy that pours into your life is amazing. Second, you become a natural magnet. People are naturally attracted to those who give from abundance. They can tell the difference between someone who is working from abundance and someone who is working from scarcity. Your relationships get deeper. Your network grows organically. Opportunities come to you instead of you having to pursue them all the time. This isn't magical. It's the natural consequence of becoming someone who brings value wherever you go, instead of trying to take value from interaction. Third, and most importantly, you find a lasting source of happiness. Happiness tied to what you get is always fleeting, always subject to change. But the happiness that comes from giving, coming from contributing, from the knowledge your being in the world makes a positive difference, this is lasting. It is available even amid life's inevitable difficulties. I've lived this shift for myself. In my early years of teaching, I gauged success by what I got: enrollment from students, accolades, revenue. There was always apprehension, always comparing, always wondering if I was getting enough in return for what I was doing. When I changed to gauging success by what my students were learning, by what I saw grow in them, by the values they took into their own world, everything shifted. Even on bad days when everything that could go wrong did, I could take comfort in small moments of connection, of transmission, of passing on something that might take root long after I was dead. This leads me to the final expression of the principle: giving without attachment to results, giving without expectation of reward, giving without even an audience. The highest form of giving is when you plant trees whose shade you know you'll never enjoy. When you share ideas that may only be perfectly understood a generation from now. When you give not for what it bears, but because giving has become second nature, as automatic as breathing. Before my last film was finished, I had a dream that lingered. In it, I was instructing a student who kept repeating, "But when will I be powerful? When will I be respected? When will..." The farmer glanced up, soil-covered hands, and simply said, "I plant because it is what I am here to do. The harvest is not my concern. It will come in its own time, perhaps even after I am gone. My joy is in the planting itself." I awoke from that dream with crystal clarity regarding my mission. I was not here simply to become well known, to gain wealth, to gain praise. I was here to sow seeds, concepts, techniques, philosophies that could take root in ways I could never imagine, could produce fruit. I would never know. This realization released me entirely from the worried tracking of what I was getting back. The act of giving itself became sufficient. And so I ask you now, what seeds might you plant today? What might you give without regard for what you'll get back? Where might you give simply for the sake of giving? These questions, if you allow them, will change not only what you do, but who you are. They will move you from being simply successful in the world's terms to being meaningful in ways that go beyond traditional metrics. Listen up now. There are takers everywhere in the world. People who come at life seeking what they can take, what they can get, what they can get, what they can get there. Takers can win short-term victories, can acquire great stuff, can even become powers. But their reach is always short, their fulfillment always transitory, their inheritance always in doubt and doubt. And then there are the givers, those precious few who come to each day, wondering what they can give, what they can make better, what they can leave in better shape than they found it. Givers don't always get instant gratification. They don't always end up with the most impressive stuff. They don't always have the most coveted titles, but their influence spreads over time and distance. Their satisfaction goes deep and consistent, and their legacy lasts long after they're dead. I made my decision years ago, standing in that dojo while rain poured down the windows, seeing that my clenched fist was not only restricting what I could take, but what I could give. I opened my hand that night, not my physical hand, but the figurative one that had been grasping so tightly to knowledge, to recognition, to control, and in that beginning, I found a strength much more powerful than anything I might attain through understanding. Now the decision is before you. Will you continue the weary work of figuring out what you're worth, defending what you've got, squeezing what you can out of every circumstance? Or will you enter the counterintuitive truth that has changed lives for millennia, that in order to get more, you have to give more first? Will you open your hand? Remember this, the cup has to be drained before it can be refilled with something new. Your hands have to be open to receive. The breath has to be breathed out fully before the body can take in fresh air. These aren't poetic metaphors. These are pragmatic realities about how energy works, how growth occurs, how fulfillment operates. The more you give, the more you're able to receive. I've done my best to share everything with you today. I've provided you not only with philosophy, but with working methods, not only with inspiration, but a step-by-step path to transformation. It's your choice what you make of this instruction. Some will hear and head shake, but go on doing as usual. Others will try it for a little while and back off when instant results don't materialize. But some, you maybe, will see the monumental sense in this principle and start the process of being it entirely. If you take this route, be assured that it only gets simpler as you practice. Similar to any marital art, the awkward movements at first eventually become second nature. The giving initially causing fear will eventually turn into your instinctive response.